Okay, here we are at the beginning of the Madison first term, if there's more than one. And his first card is the Second Seminole War. This is a war, so the general is important. Well, if that's the case, Zachary Taylor ain't my general anymore. We're going to hand this job off to Winfield Scott because he is more effective, therefore he can trump even a member of his own party. He gets an immediate point of popularity from that, I hope, yes. And now he's allowed to solve this. Now that just made a bit of an enemy here, I guess. But you know, it's kind of to be expected. And what's cool here is, well, the difficulty is only 4. Our general is, I should have married him to Abigail Smith. He's going to only have to spend 1 influence to succeed here. And what's really potent is the president gets some of the credit, as does good old Fuss and Feathers. Now, one thing with these cards, for example, Northwest Indian card had an effect on some things, and this one might as well on Florida. The most contested of the Seminole Wars occurred, I don't remember the first one, when the Seminoles refused to abandon their lands in Florida for other lands west of the Mississippi. Sounds to me, okay, we given, like, that's going to create a Florida as a state card being available at this point, which, now we get an IP to the Conservative Party leader, Pinckney, and public support shifts towards the Liberals. This is largely okay. Reserves go down by 40. We have a lot of money. And then this succeeded, so we get to place it here, and we get to draw another card. And, you know, we haven't really played out many effects yet. Nat Turner Slave Uprising. This is a low difficulty. Not a lot of popularity. We got a death, so I'm going to have to hunt down who dies. It's going to require the general, and we have end of slavery is not resolved, so this will get to go forward. We should be able to take care of this almost trivially, but we have to see who dies first. Well, I have to roll a die first, I guess, on the death table. We've done this before, but there it is. It is going to be the 3rd oldest statesman. Well, by looking here, assuming everybody's out, who's early, 4 would be the oldest, 7 would be the 2nd oldest. We should be finding 8. And that will be John Jay, which means we're going to have the ability to assign a new Chief Justice. He's got no popularity whatsoever. That's 2 votes off of purple, and he's being weakened. And I'll put him over here for now. I'll sort those out so that they're easy to find a little later. But yeah, this conservative little coterie is, and although they're in the lead so far, they're weakening as a real power. And you can see there's a couple of other, even blue is coming into their own as a very strong power, red as well. But yellow is the dominant force. Okay, we should be able to resolve this with no problem. Scott is good enough. That's 2 of our issues. Here comes the 3rd, and it's Alabama. Well, it's an easy issue for Madison to cover. He's got 3 base popularity plus Abigail Smith. He has no problem with this. But now he has to get the votes for it, as it were. And I'll have to do some negotiation offline. I don't show the negotiation because there really isn't anything to show. It's all going on in my head. And I don't really do a lot of talking except kind of like, if you offer me this, I'm looking at my cards and I got an Alabama guy. I'd really, you know. It's hard to maintain a coalition against somebody gaining things. The feeling is, hey, yellow is very powerful. Okay, great. Well, our greatest powers, these 2, and our conservative Pinckney, all refuse to play ball. However, DeWitt Clinton as Secretary of War, Polk as Secretary of State. They're willing to support this. Is that enough? No. It's a little short. But now I'm going to run through, and it's probably going to end up passing. Alabama's going to be there. Now, Clinton's particularly in favor of this because he has William Rufus King to add to his hand. But once one person kind of goes in, well, now another weak person goes in. If I'm going to give away 2 positions, then giving away to the weaker players makes sense. My hope was that I would get away by just giving a position. Oh, I can't do this. I can't give this to Polk. We'll make Aaron Burr. Nah, we'll make Patrick Henry the Secretary of State. He would really have liked Polk in that position, though. Nah, we'll give it to Burr. Burr has more political effectiveness. Because I can't give it to Polk because I've already given Clinton as an off-party person the position. But then we'll go through the order of votes. Right now, though, I'm sitting on 3 extra votes. That would be enough to push it over if I want to use that. On the other hand, if I have a card that'll get me some votes like a coalition, that'll help too. As we'll put that down. Oh, where are we? Down into Alabama. And, we're running low on little squares. I'm going to have to maybe start fishing out some other pieces to cover. It turned out a kind of expensive play for the Madison presidency because he had to spend the influence to get the votes up, in addition to giving away 2 positions. Well, he could have gotten more popularity by ignoring that. And he probably should have. That was a foolish move on his part. But people sometimes do that. And now we go back to the 12th Amendment. And I can tell you this much. There's 2 people who want to see this sucker. Boom and boom. Whether or not that's enough to get it going, I'm not sure. Well, the votes just aren't there. Nowhere near. It's 39 against to 28 in favor. I tried to get Red to go in favor of it, offering him an office. They said no. 12th Amendment fails again. It doesn't really cause anything for failure, but it does mean that the couple people who have the most power, the party leaders, they're not able to get the support for this. I think that the non-party leaders feel like they have a real strong possibility of gaining the presidency. If that's not the case. The only person who might have been kind of shaky on this was over here because he's got a lot of popularity on some of his people. If Madison goes away, but then Winfield Scott with 6 popularity, he can probably be boosted up more either by his war position or by Madison favoring him. This is only Madison's first term, so that's a dangerous play there to try to support to support the 12th Amendment. So that went down in flames. We're done with everything except assigning the remaining positions. And I still have one important one. I have the Chief Justice here, who does not get any popularity off that position. Interesting. But it is a potentially powerful position, except judicial review is being held here. By the way, I played the secession crisis. Finally, Jerry has decided, you know what, I'm not going to be anywhere near the points. I'm just going to take a point of influence at this point. I'm going to play the secession card for immediate political gain instead of actually trying to secede. I don't think I'm going to be in a position in the near future where this is going to be valuable, and maybe this can eke me out into snowballing into a better position. I don't know what to say about that. It's a valuable card. He's been holding it for so long. Why wouldn't he keep holding it on the off chance that he would come across with a potential victory? But he's just so far behind, it kind of doesn't matter what he does. By throwing it back in the deck, he might be throwing a wild card out there that somebody else may feel forced, one of the more important people may feel forced to take it to prevent the leader from being able to win with it. Secession crisis of that nature, dissolving the Union, is, from what I can tell from the card, it's a clean secession. It's not the Civil War, and it's not the bankruptcy. It's not going to cause the problem. So if you do have the victory at that point, you can play that card and get yourself into a good position with it, where you can win off of it automatically. So I don't know where I'm going to assign these, but they're going to all go over to his party. There's no question about that. So the Democrats again have Madison, and they're going to go with Monroe. Again, that worked well enough. I would rather maybe some other setup, but that double Virginia seemed to give a lot of power towards spreading out everywhere. Conservatives, Pinckney's up again. Now, Pickering got the vice presidential election successful. Do I want the same result? Or do I want, say, to put a John Marshall up there who maybe has a chance of winning the presidential election? Red's not doing well at all. It might win me some support in terms of making the guy who's would then perhaps inherit the conservative regime. What the advantage for, say, putting Marshall or a Virginian up is that I would fill Virginia. Either Madison or Monroe could go in there. Well, Madison would have to go in. Monroe would then be stuck placing next to Virginia. And, well, Ohio is the best place. If Ohio didn't exist, if Maryland were the choke point here, it would be a very good strategy, I think, towards getting Calhoun a shot at winning. Because Marshall a chance at winning. Because then Marshall could come out of Virginia right into Maryland, and then we have two people running up here, and two people kind of running in the rest of the race. There'd be the blocks in Virginia and Maryland. But that's not going to be the case. Worse, I no longer have the Supreme Court, which could conceivably break a tie. The only tie it breaks, though, is if there's one in the House vote, where you count all the states. I think that actually is the tiebreaker in that case. I don't rightly remember. Yeah, the Chief Justice gets to choose it, and then it goes to popularity, and then it goes to oldest. But that would be kind of a wild card up my sleeve, and I highly doubt that I'm going to get it. So I'm going to go with the Pinckney-Pickering ticket again, and have kind of, because I'm stuck with Pinckney. He's the most popular in the Conservative Party, and hope that I can pull vice president again, I guess. We'll see. I don't really know if it's worth, it's probably going to play out the same way, more or less. Okay, well, Madison went a little bit harder this time. Made sure he had more votes. He pulled in 197 to just ensure I've got the presidency, nobody else can get it. I'm not trying to get the dual thing, and that meant Pickering got like 139. So it wasn't exactly the same thing, but the same eventual result. Pickering's vice president. Madison has a ton of popularity sitting on him, which is going to be very useful, I would say. And this is his second term. He'll be retiring after that. The difficulty to it is, well, James Monroe is only at 5 popularity. That puts him below, say, Aaron Burr, tied with Patrick Henry. So he's not the obvious successor to Madison that I'd like, but I kind of decided, well, it's impossible for me to take both positions, and to tell you the truth, vice president isn't necessarily that advantageous, so we'll take Treasury with that, or we'll take some position that we can boost our power with. We have a lot of votes, we can probably manage that, although that popularity is going to be scary to people. 15 jumping right up as soon as he's done. you know, that puts him right up near the top with still a fairly powerful faction in play. Interesting draft selection here. I think Stephen Douglas is probably the best. Oh, shit. You know what? Lincoln's not in the game yet. Ah, jeez. Let's put Harrison here instead of Lincoln. And that gets rid of 3 votes. Is Lincoln that powerful? Yeah, 3 votes. Wow. And that means actually blue will get the first play. Because it came down to a tie all the way down to age otherwise. But the loss of votes would mean blue is going to get first draw. So yeah, do I want to hold a second Illinois statesman? That takes 2 slots in my hand, or do I want to play out something else? This gives me an immediate popularity cube, as long as I don't marry her to Thomas Benton. Favorite daughter of Thomas Benton. We got some interesting stuff, though. First of all, something to hit the president with. Reserves down, public support 2 towards center. A lot of people are kind of in favor of that happening. And the presidential popularity drops by 1. Right now, yellow is in the lead. Who's terribly interested in this? Tell you the truth, this guy is. He's dropping in value very quickly. If he can blow his influence, getting us closer to the Civil War is going to be nice. A couple coalition building, big deal. Raid on Harper's. Oh, I'm sorry. That one doesn't. That one doesn't affect tension. The raid on Harper's Ferry does. That'll be 4. That's the one he wants. 4 IP for the Conservatives and tension up 1. The other side of this is the Panic of 1847. This is the one that hits the president. Reserves down 5. Public support towards the center, and presidential popularity down 1. This is kind of a, hey, yellow's not going to get this, so everybody's going to leave it in there. The raid on Harper's Ferry is a little more dangerous. If you give that to orange, he might be able to win the game through it, because yellow has so much political power on the board. And yellow's not going to see that card. This is one of the problems I have playing at solitaire. So if I was playing this, you know, as part of a multiplayer game, the drafting works like it would at a Magic draft. You pull, you look at the cards and you say, if I take this one, he'll never know it's maybe in the deck if he's never played, but at the very least, he won't know that somebody's got it. And I can probably discard it because it's not terribly useful to me. Holding it would be useful, but you know what? The guy who it helps to pump up the tensions is probably the last guy. Well, no, that's not the case. That's not the case. But someone it helps is going to have a fairly high victory point total, so they're probably going pretty late in this. It certainly doesn't help yellow for that to be played. We have the Liberty Party, which is what? Screws up a cube, all the cubes in New York, to someone else. So yeah, Douglas, like Lincoln, is kind of a bone right now until Illinois comes around, and I think we had the option for it already and it didn't come out. Interesting. Alright, well, we'll see who drafts what. So far, one of the important cards, the Panic of 47, green picked this up to prevent anyone from playing it. And now that leaves it to orange, the last person who has an option to grab the raid on Harper's Ferry. The Liberty Party is definitely valuable, but you know what? I think I have to pick this up just to prevent orange. Orange would be able to, I think, win the game with that. I feel kind of boned having been left that, because that means orange is going to pick up, or purple is going to pick up the Liberty Party. I say orange because he's sort of the conservative power. This is potent in terms of turning an election without any doubt. The party cubes in New York are replaced by those of your choice. Wow. So a couple of kind of important cards discarded here. The Hartford Convention and the coalition building. I think that's it. I guess just the Hartford. I thought Dred Scott got thrown. I think Dred Scott got thrown away too. know if you saw it there. I didn't see it. There it is. Dred Scott as well, which is a tension increaser. This one is, again, a tension increaser. It's dangerous to put these in here because there's no... first of all, this is the second deck of these. We still have... no, I'm sorry, this is the third deck, but we still have another whole set of issues to come, and we're pretty close to the Civil War at this point. However, they hold hand space up, and the idea is kind of someone who wants to end the game again is probably going to be going late, so maybe someone else can get boned with those cards. Also, maybe nobody wants to play them. So, for example, I sure don't want the Chief Justice to have this, but because yellow, if his faction starts to dissolve, if he starts to lose some of those votes, he doesn't have a whole lot of influence, and influence can disappear whenever you like, pretty much. Not quite whenever, but pretty damn close. So it would be a game-winning card possibly in his hand. And that's the danger of putting it there. And there's no safe point. Like, I can't say, hey, I'm in the third deck, the cards don't matter anymore. No. First of all, there is another deck of issues, which is going to prolong the game, so these get reshuffled. And then, you know, I mean, these... whatever's discarded and put in here just keeps getting shuffled again and again and again if need be. Talking with the newspapers and with the public opinion track, you can see it didn't seem to move much, but a number of people played in that. Maybe not too many this time, 2 or 3. In particular, over here, they would have really liked to see it dump into the dominance section. Perhaps this guy would too, just because they have so many conservatives. But you know, DeWitt Clinton is his top at 3. We got the bid and took Jeff Davis. That was the card that came up. Marshall or Jerry at 3. None of them really seem all that safe, because we got Pickering here at 3 as well, and Pinckney. And then Webster would also be a threat. So, you know, it's not obvious. You can look at the ages, and that'll matter. So Clinton will beat out Webster. But people might be holding a card that'll allow them to improve their popularity. In fact, this guy bid, because I believe he's holding a make an important speech that could have gotten him not popularity, but additional influence over here on Clinton, which would then, you know, if it went up, be important, but it, you know, if it's not going to go up, it was not of value. So now we move into the second term for Madison. So far, Madison had been willing to trade off for states, to some extent at least. But the thing is, every job he trades off is worth a popularity. He might rather be adding to the popularity of his secondary people in his coalition rather than scoring more points right now. The points will still be there, but his points will no longer be influencing the game in terms of being electable. So he's sitting in a position where, hey, I'll pass Louisiana, but I don't really give a shit. And if you want it, I'll put it forward. But I'm not going to expend any of my political capital. I'm not going to offer you any positions for this. This is not worth it. Kind of intransigence, though, is getting Madison in trouble, because now he's got French attacks on shipping. Now, the envoy can handle this one. Well, I could punt this to my vice president, Timothy Pickering, and assign an envoy before that who can handle this, like John Quincy Adams, and there might be enough votes to pass it. Of course, there might not, because I'm not sure I'm going to vote for it if I punt it. And that, of course, can cause some of these possible office holders to refuse the office if they don't think they're going to have the votes for it. So, for example, if I just did this with Adams, Adams would say, where are you going to get the votes for? Because I don't want to take another popularity minus. Okay. If I hand the task to Pickering, which I think is what I'm going to do, I do have to try to offer an envoy somewhere, I guess. I'm not absolutely certain of that. The only... I think I can force Pickering to actually ignore this, which will cause him a popularity problem if I don't push for an envoy. But I'm just not sure that there's an envoy who's willing to take this under these circumstances. And in fact, who particularly wants to give Pickering to popularity? Well, if I got it too, but there'd be a third person involved in this deal. There'd have to be. You know, if it was yellow, that would be fine. So let's say I went with yellow, purple, and blue for this. I think they would have the votes to get it through. But I don't think if I punt it to Pickering, he's going to have the votes to get it through. And I don't think we're going to be able to assign an envoy. So that is what I'm going to do. We have a failure, so the reserves go down by 15, which is actually less than they'd go down if we fight or try to bribe our way out of this. We don't give any points to the other party leader, Pinckney here, and Pickering's going to lose some popularity off of it, and this ends up as another failed resolution. And go to our third, and it's the War of 1812. Well, we have a death. We roll a quick die on the death table over here. And we're going to get the second oldest statesman. Still haven't put him back in place. 1, 2, 3, 4 would be the oldest. 5, 6, 8. Sounds like 7. And I believe that's Jerry. So he's going to go away. That takes a vote away from Red. And Red gets 2 popularity scored off of it. And he's gone. And that's not going to help or hinder the resolution of whatever this is. Now, this has many possible resolutions. One, it could require... Now, I've already assigned something to Pickering, so this one's my problem. And I may have to cause this one. If states came with a penalty, presidents might be forced into feeling like they have to resolve them. But in this particular case, the president did not see a real need. Although maybe if he had assigned some offices before he started drawing these bad cards, he wouldn't be in this problem. So, we'd need either a war or an envoy, and our options are resolved to fight, which gives us popularity. We lose 200 in our reserves, which would put us in debt, but not terribly badly. Public support goes to the Liberals, some prestige goes, influence goes over to the Conservatives. Negotiating, reserves go down by only 36, 4 influence to the Conservatives, but someone could sabotage that. Failed, we lose a huge 250 off our reserves, which would put us in the problem place. 3 IP to the Conservative Party leader, and then Louisiana gets removed from play. The Louisiana card, Louisiana itself would be conquered in that case, I guess. And then ignored completely, the reserves go down by 40. Public support goes to the Conservatives, and an IP to the Liberal. But we only take a -1. A -1 to our popularity off that. This is going to take some real negotiating to see what we can do. I think we might be able to win this. 2 popularity plus an office, 3 popularity is something of a prize. Worth more than a state, right? Oh, that too went into the ignored pile. Because Madison, although maybe he could get the red player here to agree that this was a worthwhile pairing, may have required another office as well. What he could not get was somebody with enough competence to handle the 6 difficulty. He's got only 1 influence cube here and wasn't really willing or able to expand that at all. So, good old Madison is becoming maybe one of the worst presidents that we've seen in a pretty questionable game in terms of the quality of our presidents. And then for his 4th event, we have another potential death and an internal improvements, which is the president's responsibility only. We'll see. Let's see who dies. Madison's probably not going to. The Hand of Time says the oldest person. That looks like Patrick Henry at 4. So, we'll get 2 votes for Patrick Henry. I'm sorry. I think I'm tired. And he gets 3 popularity. And he gets cashed in into the piles of the overaged. And now let's look at this. The president is the resolver here. If he succeeds, well, his chief justice could cancel this, which would give the conservatives some support. That's not going to happen. Oh, no, it couldn't. It's only judicial review. If it's failed or ignored, the conservatives get more public support, and they're getting dangerously close with, well, it looks like the liberals actually have a pretty decent positioning in the newspapers. But the other side of it looks possible. Of course, yeah, I'm liberal. The problem here is the votes. We just lost Patrick Henry's votes. He was sitting on 2. That drops us down to 62 now, which means we're going to need 32. 32. So we could get away probably with blue, and certainly with red. If we could get an agreement here. In terms of that, so there's a possibility there. It's kind of in favor of public support going to the conservatives. I don't see him being terribly happy with this. Polk is my big money guy right now. But orange does not have the votes for this. Red would have the votes. Can red get a conservative into enough power? Well, red has an interesting situation here, which is maybe I don't necessarily want this to succeed for the same reasons he doesn't, which is that a lot of people have a lot of conservative power on the board, and they kind of might see that they have the better chance if we get to a one-party system. So is he even open to say, yeah, he's open to, give me a couple of offices and we'll pass this for you. Well, a couple of offices is approximately the same cost. I'm going to lose a popularity or gain a popularity, depending on how it passes. So let's see if they can come to an agreement. I'll make a roll on. He's willing to give a couple offices to them. Yeah, so we'll try to resolve this one. And the particulars of the offices don't really matter, but I made Marshall my Secretary of State, Zach Taylor Secretary of War. I could not give both to conservatives here, and then over My side I gave Monroe the Treasury, which gives him a big 6. I think it puts him in second place. Once Madison goes, Burr is sitting on 7. So if Burr continues to survive here, he'll be the party leader, it looks like. And I don't think anybody's going to try to kill him. One of the problems is the guy with the duel is over here. He has Pickney, who could commit a duel, but Pickney's sitting on all my popularity. I don't want him to duel necessarily. Not because, hey, I'll lose my popularity. That's not true. I'll score that. But he is the party leader. I don't want to lose that powerful position of being the Conservative Party leader. And Madison made his way back up. For what it's worth, Crawford is between him and Clay in terms of just trying to keep a lot of influence on the board. That's going to close out, I shouldn't have that there, and move us to the Treasury, and I'll take care of that and then go on to the election. It's nomination time, and our nominees are once again Thomas Pickney with all his power, and Aaron Burr. Burr is an interesting critter, but yeah, he beats out Monroe slightly. Whoa. Scott's awfully close. Unless we can get, I don't think you can get popularity off anything. You can get influence, but okay. So, Burr has to pick a running mate, and here it gets tricky. Burr's in New York. New York is no longer the powerhouse it used to be. It's way out in the corner of the electoral map. It's got some valuable stuff near it. It means I get into New England, Pennsylvania, valuable states. But it is vital that I have something down here in the South and West. And I'm having trouble finding anyone I can nominate. Seward, New York. Van Buren, New York. Taylor's Kentucky. He might be my choice here. And then, of course, a wide swath of interesting old Virginia with Scott and Monroe. Crawford down in Georgia. Kentucky, Michigan. So I've got a lot of good options over on the yellow player who's holding all the seats. But I thought this said New York, and of course Taylor's not going to be from New York. So I believe I'll nominate as my running mate Zach Taylor. That seems like my best choice. Conservatives went again with Pickering as well as Pickney. Same ticket again and again and again, which they're expanding out of New England to get them into the northern area. But here's the thing, these are separate candidates, and at this point the Conservatives have to decide. It doesn't matter who wins as long as one of us gets the presidency. So which is the way to best get it? Pickering has that big New England vote. That's huge. Where can I get him next? Can I get him down into Ohio? No, because I probably am going to get beaten out by the Blue-Purple Alliance. Given that, I'm going to have to go with Pickney into Ohio to try to limit at least the number of people they can get in there. And Orange, well, he has no real option. And we'll see how much it plays out from there. I've got low hopes, to tell you the truth, for the Conservatives winning this. Even though they've got the popular support factor in their hands, they do not have the electoral positioning with their candidates. The fact that they had to go all the way to New England instead of, the further south you can be in the Northeast, the better you are, right? And that's why we saw the double Virginia ticket was able to win. It's sitting in the center. It can expand in both directions. It has a lot of control and a lot of power. But Pickney is forced into play, and he comes from the Carolinas, and there's nothing you can do about it. And Burr is probably wishing he had tried to help pass the 12th Amendment at this point. He's kind of sealed up here, blocked off by Virginia and Kentucky, just in the Northeast. He's going to get a good deal of votes. We don't know how many. Zach Taylor is sleazing his way up here because this block means he and Pinckney are going to share the South, and that's that. He's not going to get north in Ohio, though. But he's got these, which are worth a lot more than Michigan, but not, well, worth more than Michigan and Ohio combined. So we'll see how those play out. I don't know where we're at, actually, in terms of the votes. It looks like Pinckney's going to pull a lot of votes, but I'm not really sure how many are sitting in the Northeast. That has still been a powerhouse. Now, without a Virginia power in play, Pickering coming out of up in the north is in second. Burr coming out of Virginia as he's still the Democratic Virginian. Right? No, Democratic New York. By being able to get this north, and not just northeast, northwest as well, he came to 123. Pickering, who is my other northerner, is at 116. So the two northern candidates pulled the most votes. It's a shame we're never probably going to see other voting systems, because it's hard to get to the one-party rule. We've seen that, and it's right now feels like we're never going to get that 12th Amendment passed. We'll probably get another shot at it. Maybe we'll get lucky. Okay, but that's not all. Because the Conservatives didn't win, I'm going to look at their cards and see if they can affect something. I could wipe out half of the Carolina votes with the nullifier party. That would be 12 votes off of Taylor, who doesn't matter, and 12 votes off of Pinckney, who doesn't matter. All right, that seems like a waste at this point. What about the Liberty Party? Play in New York after New York's been fully claimed, but before results are counted. The party cubes in New York are replaced by those of your choice. New York is worth 31 votes each. I don't think I'm allowed to violate the one color, one cube per color per state vote. But I am allowed, I believe, to replace. I can either leave this alone, which I'm not sure I'm allowed to do, but I could replace it with blue, and then replace this with red, and then replace this with orange. And that would give red 31 more votes. Will that do it for me? Red is Pinckney, and that takes 31 off Burr. That is certainly going to give me the lead. So I am going to play the Liberty Party. And that's going to essentially replace New York's vote there. So now, with 31 off for Burr and 31 extra votes here for Pinckney, which will give him the presidency, and Pickering would get the vice presidency. Now this is removed after play, I hope. It is not. It goes back into play. Right? Interesting. It's deck 3, so it would seem like, hey, maybe it's at the end. Yeah, except remember, those suckers get reshuffled. So that goes back in as a potential. And the Liberty Party, I think, still exists. I remember back when I was in New York State seeing independent Liberty. Yeah. Not very impressive, though. Okay. So now that puts it in the hands of either Burr, who has a Maryland one. Play after Maryland's been claimed. Place there a cube of a candidate not present. The two candidates split the vote equally, so I would be able to take 5 votes away from someone, either Taylor, which wouldn't really help me, or Pinckney, right? And get 5 more. Should put me up to like 97 to 111. That doesn't sound terribly valuable, so I'm going to hold on to that. Let's see if Taylor can do anything. Taylor cannot. So we had the first president, vice president successful, with the president actually elected as the president who was nominated. Well, there's an interesting turn of events. The last time we came close was with Hamilton and King, who ended up getting the wrong person elected in that situation. So we got a new president, and we already got rid of Madison, and I retired him for the election. So I'll hand out the offices. Capture the current victory point stance, just because yellow and purple. Last turn, yellow was actually 1 ahead of purple. I didn't catch that one, but this is to show you how far ahead. They're a good 11 points ahead of the next closest, which is Burr's little party here. And then sliding down, we can see they just get to the point where there's almost no victory points and probably no chance of victory, to tell you the truth, for those parties, unless they can completely turn things around. But the game is quite far along. I've been in similar situations in Republic of Rome, where I feel like, hey, I've got no chance, but you can come back in that game fairly easily. I'm not so sure you can in this. See, in Republic of Rome, you have an individual goal. I want to seize power. So if you get a good statesman, you can, essentially either lead eventually in some of the later decks, get an army and march on Rome, or you can alternatively have enough influence that other people have to take big risks to stop you, even though you're all alone. But here, because it's popularity that's accumulated over time, as you fall behind, not only do you necessarily... So we've got people who aren't in terribly bad shape politically right now, like Red, but he has done poorly over the course of the game, so he's just not doing very well in terms of victory points. The other side, though, these guys have done quite well throughout the game. They have a very good stance in victory points. The winning stance right now, if it were to just somehow end safely, yellow, however, has a very powerful set of statesmen and almost as many victory points. And they are the threat. But how many people are really going to shoot yellow down to help purple? Yeah, we're not happy with yellow. We're not going to necessarily support them. But you know what? We're probably not going to get better than, if you're looking at red and yellow, hey, if I can get a 4th place finish, that's pretty good, right? I know some people hate that kind of thinking, but I view in a game like this that makes perfect sense. Hand of possible cards is not a good one this time. 7 cards, 2 of these coalition building. Okay, usually they're towards the bottom of the situation, but Hannibal Hamlin is from Maine? Well, he's never coming into play, I think. I think Maine's been buried it may be in the deck, but it can't possibly come up because of an event that didn't happen. The early British seizing or something like that, I think. And this chicanery in Louisiana, which is a Louisiana election card, that's probably the number 6 card in terms of value. Louisiana didn't pass, but it could come back in because the Louisiana Purchase is available. We still have another deck of issues. Yes, this is a long game, just like Republic of Rome is a long game. There are shorter scenarios, though. The interesting, well, we have a theory of nullification applied. This didn't get discarded because somebody used the weaker version of it. So we still have some possibility of that. The biggie, though, is Breckinridge may be the most valuable card. The Panic of 1857 drops reserves. Public support goes towards the center. The president loses 2 popularity, and then it's out of play. So somebody's probably going to play that because purple is going to get stuck with a card that probably won't have a use throughout the game. A lot of play towards strengthening the conservative public support, primarily because there's so many liberals over in yellow's hands that people like this and this, they feel like their best chance is to throw things wide open if we can get it into dominance. Now, as Pinckney begins to realize this, he managed to buy the last bid and actually used Van Buren, who tried twice and failed to get popularity, to put an extra newspaper in play for the liberals. And I think I may just spend a point on a die roll as well. 3, that's going to drop at another 1. I really don't think I want the dominance there. Pinckney's very powerful in the sense that he will be on the possible ticket with all his popularity, but he'll probably be running against 3 other, I think it's actually 7 other characters, if I'm not mistaken. We haven't had a one party here. Any statesman, well, we don't know how many. Each statesman's allowed to nominate a vice presidential candidate. So there could be up to 8 candidates running on this board, and Pinckney starts way down here, which doesn't sound terribly appealing. He probably will be running against, what is this, his brother? That's Charles Pinckney, Thomas Pinckney. Yeah, brother of Charles Pinckney. They'll probably both be running because this guy's sitting on 4 popularity, which is pretty damn high in the party. I think it's the second highest behind him. You know, this just looks wrong. He was elected twice. I think I forgot to give him a cube. I hope I gave Pinckney one, or the 3 he deserved. I think he did, because 10 seems like a lot. But I can't think of anything that would have lost him a popularity at that point. So yeah, we're in a pretty interesting position right now in terms of the potential of this going to the one-party system and everything just being thrown into sort of a chaos. Using his turn, he picked up a card. What did he get? He got the Wilmot Proviso, which allows him to play it as an issue. It gives 2 influence to the Conservative Party and drops the public support towards Liberal, which at this point is kind of appealing. Judicial review can cancel it, and then, or if not passed, the party leaders would lose influence. Yeah. I don't know, without the compromise, if the Wilmot Proviso makes a lot of sense, but whatever, there's probably some kind of law in the books in place, and God knows there's so many states not making it in.